Good day, good day, good day, good day, good day, everyone. Welcome back, grade 7 students. This is your English class with Teacher Ross. How are you today? Are you excited about our lesson? Very good. We are now on quarter 3, week 3. And for our most essential learning competency, explain how a selection may be influenced by culture, history, environment, or other factors. At the end of this lesson, you are expected to identify the distinguishing features of revolutionary songs, poems, short stories, drama, and novels. Discover literature as a tool to assert one's unique identity and to better understand other people. And explain how a selection may be influenced by culture, history, environment, or other factors. Today, we are about to discuss the influences of history, culture, environment, and other factors in literary selection. But first, let us identify the distinguishing features of different genres of Philippine literature. Let us start with revolutionary song. It is a political song that advocates or praises revolutions. It is used to boost morale as well as for political propaganda or agitation. For examples, Handog ng Pilipino sa Mundo, Ang Bayan Ko, Tatsulok. Next, we have poem. It is a piece of writing that partakes of the nature of both speech and song that is nearly always rhythmical, usually metaphorical, and often exhibits such formal elements as meter, rhyme, and stanza. For example, we have haiku. It is a poem of free verse that the Japanese like. It was made up of 17 syllables divided into 3 lines. The first line had 5 syllables, the second 7 syllables, and the third 5. The haiku is allegorical in meaning, is short, and covers a wide scope in meaning. For example, we have here the Tagalog haiku tutubi and the English translation dragonfly. For Tagalog, hila mo'y tabak, ang bulaklak nanginig sa paglapit mo. In English, you pull a saber, the flower is shivering moment you approached. We have 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. Another example of a poem is what we call tanaga. It is a type of short Filipino poem consisting of 4 lines with 7 syllables each with the same rhyme at the end of each line. That is to say, a 7-7-7 syllabic verse. We have here the Tagalog and English version. For Tagalog, katitibay katulos, sakaling datnang agos, ako'y mumunting lumot, sa iyo'y pupulupot. In English, oh, be resilient, you stake, should the waters be coming, I shall cower as the moss, to you I shall be clinging. So there are 7 syllables for the first line, then 7, 7, 7. Another example is what we call tanka. Is a Japanese poem consisting of 5 lines, the first and third of which have 5 syllables and the other 7 making 31 syllables in all and giving a complete picture of an event or mood. For example, this is a tanka entitled Winter. Beautiful mountains, rivers with cold, cold water, white cold snow on rock, trees over the place with frost, white sparkly snow everywhere. 5 syllables, 7, 5, 7, 7. Next genre is what we call short story. Is a short work of fiction. Fiction, as you know, is prose writing about imagined events and character. Prose writing differs from poetry in that it does not depend on verses, meters, or rhymes for its organization and presentation. For examples, Narciso Reyes with his Lupang Tinubuan. Liwayway Arceo's Uhaw ang Tigang na Lupa. And NVM Gonzalez, Lunsod, Nayon at Dagat-Dagatan. Next, we have drama. It is a piece of writing which is artistically presented with dialogues. A drama is attractive, impactful, and real as it presents characters along with the natural and credible aspects. For examples, Jose Maria Hernandez, Panday Pira. Francisco Soc Rodrigo, Sa Pula, Sa Puti. Then we have novel. Is another example of fictional prose and is much longer than a short story. Some short stories, however, can be quite long. If a short story is a long one, say 50 to 100 pages, we call it a novela. For examples, Jose Rizal, No Limitangere. Nick Joaquin, The Woman Who Had Two Navels. Let us have more about a short story. Every story or narrative has 5 essential elements. Let's take a closer look at each of the 5. We have plot, characters, conflict, setting, and theme. These are the 5 basic elements of a short story. Let us start with plot. Plot is what happens in the story. The action of every story can be mapped out using a plot diagram. There are 5 key points to the plot of every story. First, beginning or exposition. This is when characters and problems are introduced to the reader. Next, rising action. This is where the problem and characters are developed through a series of actions that builds the climax. Climax. This is where the problem or conflict is resolved in one way or another. The climax is often called the turning point in a story. Falling action. This is where the reader learns what happens as a result of the climax or the way in which the problem was solved. And resolution, where the entire plot is wrapped up and there is a sense of closure for the reader. Next element is what we call character. Narratives have characters. A narrative has to have a protagonist, which is the main character in the story, and one or more antagonists, characters who are in conflict with the protagonist. Sometimes the main character can be both a protagonist or antagonist. Then we have conflict. For there to be a narrative, the main character or protagonist has to have a conflict or problem. There are different types of conflicts. We have man versus man versus nature, man versus society, and man versus himself. Next element is what we call setting. Narratives have a time and place where the action is set. Then we have theme. Narratives have a theme or main idea or underlying meaning. Theme should be stated in a complete sentence. Now that we have identified different genres of literature, let us talk about the influences of history, culture, environment, and other factors in literary selection. Do you know that stories Articles, selections, and the likes are results of the various influences like environment, culture, social, and economic aspects of the author. Let us start with cultural influence. Cultural influence may be demonstrated through human behavior, vocabulary or language used, human emotions or perspectives, and material items. Let's take a look at this story. How my brother Leon brought home a wife. We can see cultural influence in various instances in this story. The story started with a recollection of an afternoon adventure in the barrio with a brother's wife. This is a story of a man introducing his city-born wife to his family who lives in their province. The main idea is Maria is being tested by Leon's family, especially his father, if she will be able to live a simple life in their province away from the city. We can also see Filipino values or traits that are revealed within the story. One trait is the goal to obtain one's trust, most especially when you want your parents to have a permission to marry your chosen loved one. Filipino parents are very hard to impress. It is hard to get their trust as well. But what Maria did in the test that the father of Baldo and Leon gave to her proved that she really deserved and loved Leon. She will sacrifice everything to be happy and be with her, only love. Another value that is revealed within the story is living a life of contentment. Filipinos who live in the province are very well known to be simple, yet they are contented for what they have. They are happy with small things and appreciate what they have and how they live life. The author of the story is Manuel E. Argilla. Manuel E. Argilla in most of his stories depict life in Barrio Nagribcan, Bawang, La Union, where he was born. Next, history. History is the branch of knowledge dealing with past events. It is about what has happened in the life or development of a people, country, institution, and etc. For example, the poem March of Death. It expresses the suffering of many Filipinos in Bataan Death March by the time of Japanese occupation. The author is Bienvenido and Santos. March of Death by Bienvenido Santos is a poem about the death march in Bataan during the time of Japanese colonization. Bienvenido portrayed sympathy to people who suffered in pain and brutality. This poem shows how life became cruel to those people who suffered. Then we have environmental influence. The circumstance, object, or condition which one is surrounded. Aggregate of social and cultural conditions that influence the life of an individual or community. One of the best examples is the story New Yorker in Tondo. This is about a girl who grew up in Tondo and went to New York for a year. The environmental influence that is shown here is when Kikai, or the main character, changed everything about her. The way she dressed, she walked, and mingled with others. She even tried to change everything about her mother. The author is Marcelino Agana Jr. He was a playwright in 1958 who wrote one of the most popular Filipino comedies that has been produced many times through the years. New Yorker in Tondo is one of his most well-known comedy plays. Its humor and irony are shown to present a realistic picture of Filipino life, and it is a story about a girl named Kikay who went to New York and fell in love with it. She acquires all the New Yorkish thing, styles, looks, manners, and languages. These things are very obvious when she arrives in Tondo. And then we have economic influence. Giving good value or return in relation to the money, time, or effort expended. One of the greatest examples is the story My Father Goes to Court. Economic influence is eminent here because in the story, the rich family and the poor family are having conflict with each other. The rich man in the story was very selfish and does not want to socialize with the poor people in the community, so he ended up being sick because he only cares about his wealth and money. The author is Carlos Bulosan. My Father Goes to Court is just one of the many short stories in Carlos Bulosan's The Laughter of My Father, which was published in the 1940s in the United States. He wrote this story based from folklore in the Philippines, and it has an underlying social commentary. It was said that this work is a protest against the economic progress of his time. This story shows the culture, traits, and way of the Filipinos. Effectively presented economic influence because during his youth, he and his family were economically impoverished by the rich and political elite, which became one of the main themes of his writing. Okay, those are the literary influences. Remember, we are all influenced by the world around us and have unique individual experiences that affect our personality. In the same way, an author is influenced by his past when he writes. Gender, race, and socioeconomic status also have a huge impact on his writing. Therefore, the more you know about the author, the better you can understand the messages central to his body of work. Okay, I hope you learned something today. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye!